episode of What Muslims Look Like. This podcast is intended for showing the depth and breadth of the Muslim community's involvement in society. From media to medicine and everything in between, we hope that you'll find that there's more to us than meets the eye. My name is Ayan Zubair, and missing in action today is my co-host and cousin Shifa Hassan. Today's episode is a special one. We've never done this before. It's a live podcast on the campus of St. John's University, the Muslim Student Association. And clearly you guys aren't here to hear me talk, so I'll introduce the guest of honor today. Queens native, rapper, entrepreneur, hustler, all-around gangster, Anik Khan.
It's an awesome name. Introduction. Thank you, man.
So a little bit about Anik. Anik's a Bengali-American rapper born in Dhaka, Bangladesh, raised in Queens, New York. His latest project, Kites, has garnered praise and acclaim from the likes of Gary Vaynerchuck, Hasan Minhaj, and Jidenna. My OG, thank you for coming, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. What's going on?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. You get here all right?
Yeah, I'm hearing fine. You okay?
I'm good, bro.
All right.
I'm not gonna
relax,
lie.
man. Relax.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't really get nervous, but I'm a little bit nervous.
I hear the vibrations in your voice. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're good. We're good to go.
Yeah. So I guess the first question, we start off with is, can you tell us about your childhood growing up, a little bit about that, and kind of how that's kind of shaped, your journey as an artist, but more importantly as a man?
Yeah, I mean, I moved here when I was 4 years old from Bangladesh, and we moved to lower income housing. And my father didn't know what that was. He was just like,
We're in America, right?
cheap rent.
Yeah.
That's where I'm gonna go. And then he was like, oh, this neighborhood is a little rough. And, it's like, I wouldn't have had it any other way. It made my family and I, be really close to each other. And Astoria is the greatest place in the world. And, I grew up with, my friend circle looks like the United Nations. I grew up with a bunch of different kinds of people. It's essentially why my music sounds the way it does and has those influences that I have. But yeah.
So you grew up in Queens, New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you eventually moved to Virginia, suburban Virginia, right?
I did for a short period of time, yeah.
So what was that process like of kind of going from the hustle and bustle of Queens, Astoria, Steinway type thing, to going to suburban Virginia with picket fences and forests and stuff like that?
Yeah, bro, it was insane. I have one. I still remember when we were driving down and seeing a cow for the first time in my life. I don't, I left Bangladesh when I was 4, so I don't even remember what cows look like. I only saw them
on a dinner table, right? You're eating dinner or whatever.
Right, or Garfield, or something like that. And then, I'm driving down and I see all these cows and horses, and I'm like, is that like those are real animals over there? And my father's like, yeah, and I was like, okay. And then we walk into the high school, and it's 3 black kids and 2 Spanish kids. And the 2 of the black kids was wearing Hollister, and I was like, oh shit, where did
Where'd I end up?
Where did they just bring me? And it was, it was it was a wild difference, because those are the things that I was I don't know how I feel about this place, but at the same time, I would we had this, the South is way cheaper, obviously. So the amount of rent you pay in New York, you could get a townhouse out there. So then I go to the townhouse and I'm like, oh, there's stairs inside my house.
Right.
This looks like Full House. Oh, this is awesome. And so it was it was a very, very wild difference. But I was so proud of New York. I was just walking around I'm from New York. I don't know anything about anything. But what Virginia really taught me was I met friends who, were doing better than a lot of other folks. So when I saw that you could have the 2-3 cars in the driveway, or you could have, stairs inside your house, or you could, get a proper education in a place where they care about that shit. I was like, oh, I wanna be able to have these things. So what it showed me was, because if I stayed in New York, I probably would have never left the 8 blocks that I kind of grew up in. And what that showed me was oh, I can attain other things. I can there's overseas programs and stuff like that in high school, and I'm just like, none of that stuff happens here. There was like a football team. I felt like I was in High School Musical. Like they had like a the away team and the thing, and I'm playing basketball, and I'm like on the team playing varsity. It's stuff like that, yeah, absolutely. And I was just sitting there like, I've never experienced anything like that. It kind of just showed me, the best way to say it is it took what I learned from New York, and then it opened me to other things. And then I took that when I came back home, because I was like, I can't stay here.
How long did you stay in Virginia for?
Like 6-7 years, something like that. Because I was out in Virginia, and then I went to college in Florida, and then I was going back and forth from Virginia until I permanently moved back when I was y'all age. I permanently moved back around like 20, 21, something like that. So yeah, it kind of it showed me like, oh, there's this side that has a lot of opportunities and like things I've never had exposure to, and I was able to take that and come back to New York and be like, yo, how do I implement the certain mentalities that I gained from the suburbs and bring it back home?
So one of the people that is here today, Rekha Mahmood, has a question for you.
Okay.
What motivated you to start rapping?
I have no idea. Well, this answers two parts. One part is, I was just engulfed in hip hop in Queens. The 90s in New York with hip hop was like a different kind of era, and the 2000s. And my sister came home with one of her pants rolled up like LL Cool J, because she went to a LL Cool J concert, and then she taught me how to get jiggy with it, because Will Smith's Get Jiggy With It came out.
Right.
I'm like doing the shoulder shit, and I'm like in 4th grade, and then I go to this Bengali deli grocery called Mochak, and I don't know why I still remember that name, but it's like out of all like this thing, and when you go inside, there's like these cassette tapes and stuff like that, and there's all these Bengali and like Indian music, just cassette tapes of Bollywood and Bengali music, and then in the middle somewhere there's this DMX, It's Dark and Hell Is Hot. And like the Bollywood music is like wild expensive. It's like $3 a tape, but the DMX one they could give it to for a quarter. So I was just like, that's a new album that just came out or something. Like it was like something around then. So I took it and I grabbed the Walkman, and I was listening to it, and I was like, yo, this music is fire. And then I just couldn't stop. I kept putting myself in the culture and understanding and listening to other people. I got introduced to Nas and Jay and all these other people, and I was just like, well, let me write something down one day, and I did. And my aunt, she's like my aunt, family friend, obviously.
Auntie.
Right, she's like an auntie, and I'm thinking I'm home alone. I'm sitting in my bedroom. There's not much space in my room because there's 6 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm like putting my headphones on, and I'm like reciting Jay or Nas out loud. I'm just like trying to rap like them, and then I take my headphones off, and then you hear my auntie go, "Kind of good," and I turn around, and I was blushing. I was like, oh, she heard me rap. That's not good. Like this shouldn't happen. She's like, "No, you're kind of good," and I was like, "All right, thanks." And so then I was like, just started writing. So that's one side, and then the other side is probably my father, and just I think subconsciously, without me even realizing, I've always watched him recite poetry. He's a freedom fighter, and he's recited poetry in front of 50 people and in front of 5,000 people. And when he does, he recites it the same way. He's all like, oh, like all hella into it and stuff. And like when I saw him move a crowd and bring like half people just sit down and think it's like a regular like political meeting, to have them stand up and be like,
yelling,
Joy Bangla. I was like, that kind of instilled in me, and I was like, oh, I think that's something that I don't give enough credit to, that I think definitely shaped me wanting to rap.
Actually, I was talking to Dharmak the other day about this, about how in hip hop, right, there's so much culture, which is black culture, right, and for artists who don't come from that culture, it's a struggle to kind of maintain your authenticity of your individual culture, while also paying homage and paying tribute to the people that came before you.
Yeah.
So how do you manage, or manage that line between, you know, the Bengali side of you, right, and then the side of you that's raised in Queens, New York?
I don't think it's something I even manage. It's just very natural for me.
Sure.
It's just a balance that I have had naturally. In the beginning, it was definitely difficult because when you grow up and somebody says, oh, you smell like onions, or oh, you Hindu this, like that's like what I got called growing up. Oh, you Apu this. It's hard to want to be brown when like everybody's making fun of you and your only point of reference is that that dude from The Simpsons or whatever, and which made me want to be around the black folks more because I was like, y'all are just so cool, and not even just the black folks, like Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, like I was around everywhere, even the West Indians, everybody like would bring me in, but I would always be like the joke. Everybody would like make fun of me, like, hey, shut up, go get me a Slurpee or something like that, and like that taught me to like that gave me a defense. Like it taught me how to be like, boy, your toes look like cucumbers, or like something. Like it taught me how to like come back at them, and it just it kind of shaped me. So it was just naturally what was happening. And then after a certain point, I think I went back to Bangladesh when I was 21 years old, and that was the first time I went since I was 9, and it like kind of changed my life. I went there and I was like, yo, this place is beautiful. Like my family is amazing. Like they're treating me like they've known me their entire lives when they know nothing about me. They've seen me maybe twice or something like that. And I was just like, I come from a country where people are empathetic and kind and loving and considerate to a point where it's almost a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Like those are so many amazing features that we come from. Like, why have I not been proud of this? Guyanese people love being Guyanese. Right. Puerto Ricans love being Puerto Rican. Why don't I love being Bengali? And then I came back and I was like, nah, I love being Bengali. And the only reason I didn't realize I didn't love being Bengali is because I didn't have somebody to tell me you should love being yourself. There was nothing in the mainstream media that was going, oh, you're South Asian and it's dope. You could be you and you could be where you're from and be proud of it. So I just came back and started being proud of it, and I started owning it, and I started telling people like, nah, I'm Bengali. That doesn't take away the fact that I'm from Queens, and we could shoot the 5 any day of your life, but that was something that was instilled through me growing up. But the culture came in a little bit later when I finally, understood how important my culture is embedded into who I am, especially with my father being like a freedom fighter. Like he's always told me to be proud of my culture, right? And I kind of think I was like at the house, but when I was outside, like I wasn't rocking. And now it's like, like the same things people made fun of us for, like smelling like curry and stuff like that. Now like white people sell it for $18 in Soho. Yeah, and you're like, what is going on, But, it's I think to circle back and now answer your question, I think it's always been something that's been natural for me, but I think a true balance came when I went back to Bangladesh, and I came back and I was like, yo, I'm not gonna let somebody, I'm growing up now, I'm becoming a man. Then I was becoming a man. I was like, I'm not gonna let somebody tell me, or even make me feel less than someone else because they don't have a depiction of what I am.
That's dope. And I think that's why people like you, people like Hasan Minhaj, people like Riz Ahmed are so important, right? Because, like, I remember being like a 8, 9-year-old kid getting bullied in school and coming. So Hasan Minhaj used to make YouTube videos. I don't know if you know that back in college, and those got kind of viral. I remember like that was the first time I ever saw a South Asian person doing something cool, right? You were the first like South Asian rapper I ever heard.
Wow.
You're also the first music album I actually bought legally. So
thank you.
There's that.
Appreciate you, Russ.
So how do you kind of, you have a platform where, a lot of people, especially in the South Asian community, really, mess with you, right? How do you feel that that's like a burden? Do you feel honored? What's your feeling about that? And kind of how would you wish to kind of have your legacy be, if that makes sense?
Okay. The burden part, I want to ask you one more time. You were saying, how does it feel?
Like, so essentially, right, you have, like, a lot of kids look up to you, right? I look up to you heavy,
well,
right? But like, you know, how, like, does that, do you feel like you have to like?
Or like it's if it's a
Yeah, right, yeah,
responsibility.
like, yeah,
okay,
like-
I'm
yeah.
sorry. I was trying to understand what you're saying. No. You know, I can only be myself, and I'm gonna be the best possible me that I can be. And if somebody looks to that and thinks they could relate to that, that's amazing, you know. But like, you know, I think I am aware and I am conscious of the fact that, you know, there's a lot of brown kids who are looking at me like, yeah, you know, you got it, or blah blah blah. And I think it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling, and I am very grateful for the fact that like people are catering to me like that. But at the same time, when I'm making my art or when I am, you know, presenting myself to the media or whomever, I'm being myself. You know, like when you talk about what a Muslim looks like and stuff like that. Like I drink, I party, you know what I'm saying? I do these things, and I'm not shameful to mention those things, right? And if that, you know, is not that someone else feels that or doesn't line up with who they are, that's completely okay. But I don't think I ever want to, you know, be like the portrayal of what all brown people look like or act like, because there's so many different types of us, so many different shades and so many different kinds of us, and we're all amazing and beautiful, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, and at the same token, what was the second half of your question?
I think that's pretty much was the,
Okay.
was the full end of it.
Nah, you definitely had a second half, but it's okay.
No, it's funny you mentioned that the whole point of me choosing the name "What Muslims Look Like" was supposed to be kind of like ironic, right? Because Muslims don't look like one thing,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's Muslims of every skin color, every ethnicity, every kind of way of life. I had a second thought. Oh yeah, sorry. The brown community, right, is, you know, very supportive, very empathetic, but can also be not so supportive of empathetic, right? You know what I mean? Like there are parts to us that are good and parts to us that,
You
right?
just said that like you just talked to your mother last week.
I'm
just being funny.
My brother's in the back. You know, where's the artist over there?
What's up, fam?
One second, let me before this thing stops working. But yeah. So how has the
Take your time, bro.
How has the brown community, whatever, fuck it. How has the brown community taken to your, how have they taken to your, you know, like the aunties and uncles in the streets, you know what I mean? Or is it more like, yo, my patriots in the streets, you know what I mean? Like, or is it like throwing stones at you type thing?
Well, I'm very lucky to have a very, very awesome set of parents that, you know, support me a lot.
Yeah.
You know, my father isn't like a very, like my parents aren't the stereotypical cookie cutter brown family. You know, like girls can come over. I've smoked hookah with my dad. We talk about women and things that happen. Like, yeah, that's not like,
What's that?
yeah, absolutely. Like, girls come over all the time. It's not a big deal. So I kind of had it a different way where they just understood. I mean, with the neighborhood we grew up in, you know, it's like you kind of have to. It's like you kind of have to understand that I got to get with the program because this is the neighborhood that I brought my children in, and this is what it is. It doesn't take away the fact that they're not conservative. They're still conservative in many ways. My mother wishes that I prayed 5 times a day. You know what I'm saying? But I think when it comes to my family and my parents, I've always had their support, and I'm, you know, very grateful for that. And when it comes to other aunties and uncles, like at least in my circle, they all, you know, everybody's been like, hey, I like him. Or like, you know, my dad will call people now after he saw like the first check. He was like, my son's doing this, and it's good. And, yeah, like the entire life he's like, don't be a rapper. And then he sees the check and he's like, you might want to keep doing this. It's like, all right. And not just that, another reason was absolutely because he was getting calls from Bangladesh, from like people he didn't know, being like, hey, I think this is your son, and my kids are listening to him all the time, and can you send a picture of him at the house, because my kids don't believe me that I know you.
That's dope.
That knows your son or something. We had this show. I had this show at where's it, Dominic? Summer Stage. And my parents came, and they were more of the rock stars than I were. Like, the fans were, like, talking to my parents, like, yo, you're Ghulam. He named his shoes after you. Because I call my shoes Air Ghulams. Yeah. So, yeah. But, yeah, it's been cool, man. I haven't really had anybody, not any negative connotation. They just say, don't tell my kid to rap. And I go, okay.
That's interesting, right? So,
yeah.
for, it's always hardest for the first person to kind of break that glass ceiling, whatever you want to call it, right? What advice would you give to aspiring singers, rappers, or anyone kind of trying to do something that's kind of out of the norm, in a society that one kind of frankly devalues brown and black bodies, and two, a community that sometimes devalues people who don't toe the line of conservatism or of typical brown things.
Yeah, I think my advice would be is that there is no plan, there is no specific way. It's just you do it. You do the shit every day until something happens. I'm not even, I don't even consider myself that popping yet, and I've been doing this for 10 plus years, and like things just started to move for me in the past year or two. And it's like, as long as you're working on your craft, and if you really want it, especially at y'all age right now, like when I was y'all age, I was working full time, like 9 in the morning at 5 p.m. and then getting off at 5 and then going to a studio until 3 in the morning, then going to work and being late and getting a red slip and then getting fired and then finding another job, because this is the time where that's the time where you just work. You just work and work, and there's no specific thing. Whether you think, I need to do shows first and perfect my performances, or I need to be in the studio 3 hours, like for 3 straight years and perfect my music. Like there's no specific, or if you're acting and it's like, I want to take acting classes first, or no, I want to, be around actors first and just learn from them. Like there's no specific way. It's just do all of that shit and do it as much as you can. And if you chase your dreams long enough, if you work and put the hustle behind it, something just ends up lining up. There really is no, I used to get mad when like I would watch like people ask other famous people like, so how do you do this? And they're like, you just work. And I'm like, that's a bullshit ass answer. Right. Like that doesn't give me anything. Yeah. But really it's the truth. It's like things just start lining up when you put yourself in positions to work hard. Whether it's, once you're done with class and you want to go perfect your craft for 8 hours, and then after that you want to go talk to some people who can help you get to the place you need to go, it's up to you to be able to go work your ass off and go do that. And as much as you do it, if you keep doing it and if you keep persistent, that's when it works out.
Is this shaking?
Oh, that was me.
Oh, okay. I was going to say like a ghost, bro.
Sorry. I talk with my hands. I'm from New York.
So in the music industry can be very like cutthroat. I mean, you know it better than anyone else. The question from the audience is from Ashton Maxey. In your opinion, what's the most difficult part about being in the music industry that you've encountered so far? I need laughing a little bit. Yeah, I gotta sometimes I gotta filter this shit. I'm just kidding. I think the most difficult part of the industry has been knowing when to, knowing the game, right? Like everybody isn't gonna be from the environment you're from or from the community you're from and communicate the way you communicate, right? So there's certain ways that people communicate that might not really relay the same towards me. And in the beginning, that would really bother me. It would make me be like, well, this person said this, why wouldn't they do that? Or, where I'm from, we keep our word, or da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, I can't expect people, especially in the music industry, it's so small and they come from everywhere, all around the country, all around the world. And you can't expect somebody to, think the same as you and to act the same as you. And I think, it's about knowing how to, communicate with people, knowing what to expect from people and where to say, your expectations, and making sure you're balancing all that. I think the music industry is all about balance because, that shit could suck you in and it could suck. Because, there are those Hollywood stories of like, oh, this is so bad and there's drugs everywhere and sex. Right. And then, I haven't been to any of that stuff. But I am also a grown man who keeps myself away from some of the things that I don't really rock with. I don't go through peer pressure, ever. I don't care who you are. You can't be like, yo, come do this. I'll be like, no. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, that's not going to work for me. So I think it's just being able to understand your balance and know that's probably been my most difficult thing. And I think I'm getting the hang of it now, but I still have so much to learn, because, the queens in me come out often and I'll be like, boy, what are you talking about? Yeah. But, yeah. Segueing kind of to your music and things you produce, can you talk about Kites, the whole album mixtape, and kind of where that name came from, what it means to you, and things of that nature?
Yeah, so Kites is a metaphor for back in the day. If you were to ask me when I was chasing music, what was the most important, I would say, oh, Madison Square Garden, like I want all the attention to me, like I want to be this big artist and I want to be the greatest of all time and da-da-da-da-da. And what I realized as I grew older, that it's not about the actual kite, it's about the people steering. It's about the people who catch you when you fall, so then you can go back up. And what I've realized as I got older, that all my life I've been chasing this dream or chasing this music, disregarding the things that molded me and shaped me and loved me the most, and that being my friends and my family and where I come from. And so Kites is just an aerial perspective of understanding what's important to me, who's holding that thread, and that's my family and the people I value the most, Ani's Peacoat, and
that's fresh, bro. I like that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Actually, my family nickname is actually Ani. So
Ooh.
yeah, I have a connection with him.
Ooh, two Anis.
Yeah.
Ani Dub.
Actually, there is a question from Bakar Chowdhury.
Okay.
When are you dropping your next album?
I have no idea. Y'all still like Kites?
I do. Yeah.
No, keep going with it. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, well, I'm making music.
Right.
So I'm making music.
I see with Gary Vee in the studio, bro.
Yeah, that happened.
Off the record.
Nah, it's all good. So yeah, I'm making music. I'm just the type of artist that like we live in this world where like people like you move past everything in like a day. Oh, big headline. Oh, 2 days later I'm over it. Oh, this, and 2 days later I'm over it. I come from appreciating art a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Like when I really value an album, I have it on repeat for a while because I just want to like take it in and absorb it, And for me, it's like, I think Kites has a lot of layers. I worked really hard on it, and I think there's many things in there that, may change your perspective when you're listening 6 months from now. Like if you listen to Kites, when I listened to Kites in the beginning, I had a certain favorite song, and now it's a completely different favorite song, almost a year later. And for me, it's like I love letting people kind of just, live in that and take that in as much as they can, and then I come back with music when I'm ready. Also, I'm not that guy who can make 300 songs in a year. Like that's just not who I am. I need to live a little bit, like I'm gonna go travel somewhere, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna come back and write about where I traveled to, because that's essentially the way I like to make music. So
so what do you listen to nowadays? Is it a lot? I know it's a lot of Nipsey, right? You got Nipsey on.
You really do watch my. Okay, that's awesome. All right, yeah. So Nipsey's new album is fire. Victory Lap. I'm listening.
Favorite song?
Victory Lap. Yeah, the intro. Me and Ani cry to that song. We actually don't cry to that song.
Last time that I checked is a banger, bro. Last time I checked.
Yeah. Last time I checked is cool. I'm listening to West African artist named Burna Boy. His album is insane. And I just listen to a lot of international music. Sango's new album is wild, nuts. He has like this Brazilian influence, like a lot of ballet funk kind of stuff.
Into mainstream, like
a lot of London artists. I don't really listen to a lot of mainstream artists. Some, but I listen to them like when like if Kendrick comes out with something, I'm like, oh, what is,
right.
Or Travis or Frank, I'm like, hey, play. I need. You said what?
Lil Pump.
Nah. I'm good. But it's not my thing. But anyway, when it comes to like the more mainstream guys, yeah, definitely like Frank and Travis and Kendrick and Drake, like they're all great. But like I love like the UK scene, like Skepta and Giggs and
right, yeah.
and these guys named Bugsy. Like I can't stop listening to them. Jay Prince, Stefflon Don. Like I'm just super into like worldly music where you could kind of take different genres and put them into one and be like, oh, this is nuts. Because me personally, I can't if I'm gonna listen to like I think there's a lot of subgenres in hip hop now. So for me, it's like if I'm gonna listen to the subgenre, I'm gonna listen to the one that does it the best. If I'm listening to Migos, I want to listen to Migos. I don't want to listen to Migos Babies because Migos does it the best.
Right.
If I'm listening to Drake, I want to listen to Drake. I don't want to listen to Drake Babies because Drake does it the best out of everybody else. So for me, it's like I listen to artists that can create that as well and form something that other people are like, oh, or form something that other artists want to get hip to or get involved to. Like, oh, this was dope.
So if you, hypothetically, could make a record with anyone, I want to say dead or alive because that seems kind of stupid because the person is dead, they're not going to come back to life. But anyone kind of in the game right now, who would you want to make a record with? I'm available, by the way. Don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Definitely Skepta.
Right.
I think ASAP Rocky. That's another. He's fire. He said, "Okay, I see you. Yeah, the young one. Yeah, y'all don't want to hear me talk about these old heads. You're like, talk about these younger. Anyway, there's a bunch, man. I mean, Frank. Anybody who wants to work, that's not a shitty person. Really, that's all it comes down to. Because if you're a shitty person, I'm not gonna work with you. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah. So I had a question actually. So you went on tour with Jidenna.
I did.
That's really really cool. How did that opportunity kind of come about, and what was the biggest thing you've learned, going on tour with someone, as celebrated Jidenna and things of that nature? Yeah,
Jidenna heard my music through a friend, through a couple different friends, and because Jidenna's really smart. Jidenna understands the power in international affairs, and he understands the power of black and brown, connection, and so he's always wanted to be involved in the brown narrative, the Muslim narrative, and when people were talking, when he was thinking about, people to be his direct support, a lot of people were like, yo, if you're looking for, a brown kid, there's this guy named Anik. And a couple different people told him about me, and once he heard my music, he just found my number and he called me on the phone. I was on the E train, and he called me and he was like, yo, what up, bro? Just wanted to tell you that I would love to work with you, and it like cuts, and I'm like texting him like, yo, sorry bro, I'm on the E train.
Who was this, right?
Yeah, so like he's calling me to tell me he wants me to go on tour. Yeah. I'm on the E train, and as he's like telling me like, so I want, and then I'm like, yo, on the train, boss. I'll hit you when I'm off. You know what I'm saying? And I call him back, and he's like, yo, I love your stuff. And he just called me, and he was like, I would love for you to, be a part of this tour. And it was like I kind of got spoiled because I heard tour experiences are really like bad. Like some artists don't even like talk to the support team. I mean, to the support act. And with Jidenna, it was so cool. He, when I met him, finally, when I met up with him for our first day in Philly, he was like, yo, man, my door's always open. The tour bus is open. Come get whatever you want. The green room's open. We shared green rooms. It was a really cool experience. And it was my first national tour, so I learned a lot about preserving your voice and making sure you don't get super smacked the day before a show because you're going to wake up and not do the right things. And you're going to jump up and down and have a headache the next day, and stuff like that. And, it was a super dope experience for me to understand, okay, this is what a national thing looks like. And he was the first one to let me do that. So I'm super appreciative of him.
And that's dope. And then a couple of months later, you meet with Gary Gary Vaynerchuck.
Yes.
That's super dope. But in a way, I was kind of like, because right after that, a lot of people were like, hey, bro, listen to this Bengali artist. His name's Anik Khan. I'm like, bro, I've been bumping his music for a minute, right?
Now you should be like, yeah, that's what's up. Yeah. So don't be the guy that goes, yeah, I've heard of him. Don't listen to him now. I don't want to be underground forever. Right. I want people to know this.
So you actually mentioned, so Gary V in the interview with you mentioned how he always mentions how he wants an artist to drop a song a day or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Which is, hey, if you have that talent, it's what it is. But what was the biggest kind of takeaway you got from interacting with him? You still obviously keep in touch with him very, very closely.
Yeah.
He's a big hustler. He's a big baller. So how do you...
Yeah. The best thing I got from Gary is probably when he said, what do you have in your span? What's your legacy over currency, right? So what do you have if you know that you're not going to do a song a day
Sorry. Yeah.
We all right?
No, yeah,
Oh,
go.
okay. Sorry, I was.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. So if we know, if you know that you're not gonna do a song a day and you don't have A+ songs every single day when it comes to content, then what do you have? If you know that you're only gonna be able to do 8 songs a year or 12 songs a year, then what are you doing around that that's going to continue the conversation, that's going to continue making people want to, look out for you or be a part of the Anik Khan brand? Right. And that was probably the best thing I picked up from him, because it showed me what other things that I want to do as well, and that's when I did the merch and all of those other things that I've put together.
The merch is really cool because I've been going to Fatima's Chinese for like, I don't know, since I was born, right?
Yeah.
Shirts are sick. Yeah.
Thank you, boss. I brought some today too.
Yeah. So I forgot to bring my shirt. I was gonna ask you to autograph, but that might be too fanboyish. But
no, it's all good.
the last question on my end, I have some fan questions to ask is, so I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm also a big fan of Hasan Minhaj's, right? I actually have he's my screensaver on my phone.
That's awesome.
It's a little bit.
That's so cute, bro.
I have infatuation with you, him, and Riz Ahmed. This is whatever.
That's adorable.
Anyway.
I think it's dope, man. I'm
well,
real.
You know what it is though? It's the fact that like growing up, I didn't have anyone to look up to, right? So I was getting bullied, called terrorist in school, calling Osama in school, right? I used to come home and cry. But I didn't have no one to be like, I'm saying, like, that's dope, right?
Yeah.
And it's so dope that like, my little cousins or whatever, little kids growing up now, you know what I mean? Like, if they like hip hop music, listen to your stuff, right? Or if they turn on, the politics news, they listen to Hasan, right? They watch a movie, they see Riz Ahmed, right?
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we got to do a lot more with getting, women of color involved. But I think that's why I kind of feel affinity to you guys. But long story short, how did you and Hasan link up, and what's your relationship like?
Tommy, do you remember how Hasan and I linked up? I don't. I just remember him DMing me, but I don't know how that happened.
I would actually die.
The program, the show you were working on, remember? You
What?
and Amanda were working on that.
Oh, right. Okay. So he's been on my radar because I was kind of working on some other projects, and we had a conversation, but I don't think he like kind of dived into my stuff. And then when my project came out, it was like in a lot of publications, and it was
Kites,
going
I don't know yet.
Kites.
Okay.
And it was on like a lot of publications and stuff. So he kept seeing my name, and then he checked it out, and then he just DM'd me, and he was like, "Yo, bro, love your stuff. I appreciate it." And I was like, "Yo, here's my number. I'm a super fan of you. I think everything you're doing is amazing." And then we kept in touch, and when I met Gary, and then Gary met Hasan, I was like, all right, I'm gonna
call him up. I remember it.
Yeah, and then I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. And then I got Gary and Hasan to come to Aladdin's in Astoria, and we ate with our hands.
That was. I remember at the end of that meeting, the Bengali uncle's trying to kick you out, and you're like, bro, give me like 5 minutes or whatever, right? That was the.
No, he wasn't trying to kick me out. He just kept wanting to see if I wanted some food. He was being so nice, and I was like, I got you in like 5 minutes.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I guess so. The last question we have, because I know everyone's hungry. We got Chinese food today, so
fire.
I think like that. But the last question is from Mariam Sekhri. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If anyone, okay. Hopefully I did. So the question is, in your opinion, what do Muslims look like? And I guess a follow-up to that would be, where do you think Muslims will be in America in the next 20, 30, 40 years?
Okay, wow, this is a very loaded question. I think a Muslim looks like anyone, right? A Muslim can look like a hijabi, a Muslim can look like me, a Muslim could look like, anyone. A Muslim can be gay, a Muslim could be any of these things, and I think it's 2018, and we need to stop letting kind of like the culture influence the religion as much, you know what I mean? And I'm no one's for me to speak about the religion would be irresponsible, because I'm not, I don't have that much information, and I'm not as close as it. So, but I do think when it comes to the cultural aspect of it and what, Islam, like Muslim is in America, we can look like anything, and I think where we'll be in 30 or 40 years is, hopefully better and with growth, and, not only in the eyes of not only in the eyes of mainstream media, but also within the eyes of our own community, because there's a lot of, evil eyes and judging within our own community about, who's a better Muslim and who's not. And hopefully within the next 30 or 40 years, that also changes, because, you are no different for, you as a person are no different for not doing certain, not for not practicing certain Islamic things that someone else may practice, right? And I think in 30 to 40 years, hopefully, those are the things we focus on, and we realize we'll have way more mainstream, clout, and people know who we are and relate to us more. And besides that, within our own communities, people will be way more accepting to the different kinds of people we are in all forms of life. Besides the doctors and the engineers, we'll have the artists and the interviewers and, and all of these things. So
I feel a bit gassed up right now, but I'm just joking. Well, this is okay. I'm having a hard time here.
You're not, bro. You're good. You're good. This is a dope content.
It's my fault. I feel I look up to you heavy, so I feel. Like
man, there's no faults. This is awesome. I'm chilling.
So last question.
I promise you.
On a much lighter note, what's your favorite Steinway joint?
In regards to what?
Anything, bro. Like you have 1 more hour on Earth. Where are you gonna spend that in Steinway?
Firdaus.
Firdaus, right?
Yeah. I'm going to Firdaus. I'm gonna go across the street to the Yemenis restaurant and get the half chicken for $11. That comes with rice, chicken, 2 soups, and salad for some reason. It's just so much food. It makes no sense. I'm going to bring that back to Firdaus, and I'm going to get a great mint hookah, and I'm gonna die. Because you said I have an hour, right?
Yeah. An hour, yeah. Favorite flavor?
Great mint every single time. Yeah, great mint.
I don't know about that flavor, but I like you, so you're good. You're good.
I've just been smoking for a really long time, guys. That's all.
All right, guys. So before we close, I just want to give a few shout outs and recognition to people who made this event possible. First and foremost, all praise and blessings and exhalation is due to Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Special thank you to Salman, Farhan, the rest of the SJU MSA people. Shout out to my friends Sharia, Reka, Ridwan. Without you guys.
Shout out to the homies.
Yeah. It's crazy. So long story short, the mics and the camera situation was kind of foo-foo. And they came through really clutch, and I really appreciate that. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Dharmic, Kaz, who's not here right now, Ani, Anik, all you guys. Thank you for coming through, bro. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having us, man. Thank you guys so much. So just so you guys know, I'm not like I'm super regular. Like, I want to hang out with y'all after this. Like, y'all could come talk to me. I got merch. I would love for y'all to support. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got, I don't know what kind of sizes we got, but we got stuff. And come talk. We'll chill. And I'm about to go have some food, and we'll go do that. Oh, relax.